think the American dream of the white picket fence, staying at home with 2.3 children, I truly, honestly believe it's changing.
When we think of housing, there's a traditional where it's the old two-story with the white picket fence. That's a stereotypic perspective, but many of the children today, because of economic times, are not living in those homes.
The house, a symbol of the American dream and the center of the ideal family. Americans throughout our nation's history have strived to own a single-family house as a way of achieving the dream. That dream took a turn for the worst when the housing market collapsed in 2008. Owners struggled to find income to finance their mortgage payments, sending many families into foreclosure, leaving them without a home. In the years following the crisis, families searched to find a new place to live. American families began to explore non-traditional housing communities and the financial differences that come with these lifestyles. This change starts with a new generation.
What building do you live in?
In the house. In a house.
A house?
A regular house. A house. Just a regular house.
Do you want to live in a house? Yeah. Why do you want to live in a house?
Because I like it better. Well, it's stable. It's two-story.
Do you live in a house?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what an apartment looks like?
I have to imagine that a lot of children still have a negative stigma to living in an apartment home, that they don't understand that this is a lifestyle choice for their parents because of where they want to work or where they want to live and spend extra time.
Children that grow up today in the environment of single-family homes believe and perceive that to be the housing choice. I think those that grow up in manufactured housing or in multifamily housing are influenced by their environment.
So is there anything you like about living in an apartment?
No.
What kind of people usually live in apartments?
People with less money, maybe.
So what do you think it would be like to live in one of these houses? What would you do if you lived there?
No, I won't live there because it's too small. It's not big. I want it to be this wide open.
Big wide open?
Yeah, big wide.
What would it be like to live in an apartment?
Bad.
Would it be bad? Why would it be bad?
Because I don't like it.
You don't like it?
The reason there's a negative stigma on living in an apartment home at this point is just probably tradition. It's the American dream of owning that home, and it's something that people and their parents have just grown up with.
I think the only way for kids to understand it would have to be visual. They would have to see one large building where 3 families live with 3 doors, 3 exit doors. I think when younger kids, preschool age, 3 through 5, see a large building, they think it's one home. And if it's not explained to them that there are 3 families that live in one unit, then they probably wouldn't understand. They wouldn't put it together.
Do you think people live here?
They work there.
They work there?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
It's just a long house. Yeah.
What makes them look like a house?
Because they have windows.
They have windows. Do you think this is one big house or lots of smaller houses?
One big house.
It's one big house.
Children today are growing up in an age of new perspectives and ideals, and the dream is changing. It is the role of educators and parents to help redefine the dream.
Little girls play house, they don't play apartment, and it's just not part of kind of the conversation for children growing up.
I think showing pictures of different homes I think is really helpful, and kind of expanding that definition so children feel accepted that just because they live in a non-traditional housing environment doesn't mean they don't have a roof over their head.
Depending on the age, you might have role play. The older child, you might have discussion, you might show videos, you might model some of those behaviors, have open discussions where other children come in.
Probably would use a theme on families and, the different places that family live.
think helping kids interpret their home as a spot on the map, as a square of Earth on this planet, I think that can be really helpful. When you get into like environmental education and geography, I think there are ways to help kids feel literally grounded and literally at home in Washington, D.C., in the United States of America, in North America, on this spot here on the planet. And I think expanding one's definition of home that way helps kids feel like no matter what their situation, they're always home.
I think they could maybe take more field trips, even just riding on a bus and going through different neighborhoods in town to see the different houses, or to take pictures and have books with different houses in the community rather than just a generic book that's not their own community.
I heard someone say once that back in the day, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, there was a lot of poverty as there is today, but the difference was there's so much less materialism, so many less images in the media of what an ideal home should be like. And so now I think the difference is children see so many more of those images, and I think they internalize the shame of not having access to those kinds of housing opportunities.
All the things that affect children as far as their perception, whether it be games, whether it be things such as coloring books, such as the games that they play, whether it's pictures that they see, whether it's programs that they see on TV, anything that portrays housing and housing choices outside of the norm of single-family home ownership, at least exposes them that there are advantages and disadvantages to each type of housing choice that they will make in life.
When they are looking at those books in the classroom, and then they think about where they live, you know they're going to start asking questions.
At the young age, we're very impressionable. So those types of things, and as fast a pace as our society is moving today, I think all those things will dramatically impact and the perception of what children actually believe and grow up to think is right for them or right for their life or right for their family.
My home's in the city on the 19th floor. You may think that's high, but there's 19 more. There's lots of apartments everywhere you go. There are people on top and traffic below. You can hear buses beeping and the neighbor's TV. You could say it's noisy, but it's home sweet home to me.
We can infuse more kind of images of people living comfortably in apartments and being satisfied with that environment. I think that will certainly have an impact on children. But don't forget that most children are now not just susceptible to what kinds of images they see on television, but images they see on the internet. So, even YouTube videos that project a positive view of apartment living can have an impact on a child growing up at this point.
Where do you think you should live?
In Albany, in Muncie, in Florida, in Sesame Street.
On Sesame Street.
They're going to start questioning and asking themselves, well, geez, that's what I'm supposed to live, and that's what my house is supposed to look like, but they see that it might not. And it's going to draw into questions, well, why don't I live in a house like that?
Where do you think you might want to live?
A house.
A house? Why do you want to live in a house?
Because it's better.
Is there anything that may be better about living somewhere else and not in a house?
I don't think so, no.
So sometimes when we ask children to create their dream house, it's always like this huge mansion, the kind that they would see on TV. And I think that's pretty typical of children throughout the country of different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Where would you want to live? What kind of building?
A mansion.
A mansion? What would you like about that?
I kind of think of mansions as like really fancy, and they're really big. Is it okay if I say a real big house?
Yes, you can say whatever you think. You can show.
I think about as the children get older, some of the shows that the preteens watch and things like that, they definitely have more options for multifamily housing. And I do think that will influence them, but at the same time I truly feel for children, the parents are going to be the ones who really kind of help develop their understanding of, what it's like. If you have a friend who lives at an apartment complex, I think it's the parents' responsibility to make sure they say, wow, look at little Johnny's house. This is fantastic. Did you enjoy playing pool with them? Did you enjoy going to the pool and hanging out with your friends that are there? Those are a lot of the options that people in single family homes just don't have available to them.
I think they view school as this is where I go, but their parents is where they live and who they live with.
I think it deals with who's in the home that makes the difference.
I don't know if it's the school's place to teach those things fully. I think that maybe falls in both the home and in the school.
I don't think I've had conversations with my children about how different people live and different housing arrangements. They've had opportunities to stay with other people, and I'm sure that it's come up, but it's never been a topic that I thought to talk to them about, I guess.
Everyone has different circumstances, and I don't think it affects the people that live there, and I want them to understand if they go to a friend's house and it's a different scenario, different situation, that they should be able to accept them, whatever those circumstances are.
If they are in a stable home and in a stable environment, they might not think about housing, and they may not think about where people live or individual circumstances. So I would probably discuss with them, just because they live in an apartment does not mean that they don't have a home. That their home is where they reside. It's where the love of their family is.
I think, kids have an ability to look past a lot of things. They're going to see the people first. I think that's just the way kids are.
On one hand, developmentally, children can be very me-centered, but on the other hand, they're intrinsically caring for each other, especially if that trait is nurtured and taught and encouraged.
I found that younger children tend to be very accepting and may not even bring it into conversation, but that home, that's the way that home and that family is.
When they say house, even if it's an apartment, they say, well, we went to, David's house and his mom cooked us this and we had a lot of fun. And so I think that's what they value. They don't value the outside. Right now, I think at that age, they value what's offered on the inside of the home. That makes a difference.
In today's economy, many American families turn to non-traditional housing communities. Industry professionals face the challenge of creating accommodations that will satisfy the needs of families.
Well, I think the industry per se has never really been focused on building larger size units that would accommodate families easily. And a lot of that is, again, an affordability issue and the ability to build an apartment community that contains the kinds of amenities and unit sizes that would be conducive to raising a family. The current industry, it costs approximately $110,000 a unit to build one apartment unit within an apartment community. And the larger the units, the more costly they become. So that's certainly a huge consideration. What I think the industry does well is that we have an amenities package that can be much more attractive to families than they would certainly have access to if they were living in a single-family home environment.
I think promoting non-traditional housing is absolutely essential. And the reason I think that is so important is because it allows families to really give their family exactly what they're looking for. Instead of trying to own a home that they can't afford or rent a house that's maybe too far away, the non-traditional housing allows them to be in the center of everything, where they really can be successful and really help their family grow in terms of just the things that they're exposed to. Non-traditional housing is a fantastic option, for these families, just because there is so much at their fingertips, and that's, I just truly think that's absolutely essential to seeing our country continue to develop.
Apartment industries today are looking at really what the market out there is demanding. They're demanding security, they're demanding flexibility, they're demanding the ability to be able to have some concept of a community. Their neighborhood is no different than a single-family neighborhood. They're looking for amenity packages out there that they can enjoy without the obligation of maintaining. They want the flexibility to be able to move on to other parts of the city or other cities or other states. And they want that opportunity in many respects to be able to save the money by living in multifamily and enjoying that lifestyle and being able to take the difference between that and, say, making a mortgage payment, paying taxes and insurance on a single family home, and literally to either enjoy that money or invest that money. And I think that the apartment industry today has to do a much better job in creating and educating society to understand that that is a choice, that is a lifestyle that many people really want to see and want to enjoy.
It has to be a safe environment. It has to have an educational component. An apartment community for a child is something it's like a big home with a lot of different rooms in it. A traditional is you're out in an area, and you may have a neighbor and you may not. In apartment living, you're always going to have a neighbor. You're always going to have someone to play with.
What if you lived in like a little part of it? Would you like that? And have your friends live in the other parts of it?
Yeah, and that would be an apartment.
It would.
People are displaced. Many people have lost single-family home ownership. They are upside down in their single-family homes, and the resources that the federal government has had in terms of looking at trying to house the American people, although much of the money is spent in the public housing sector, the federal government has done little and continues to do little in providing incentives for multifamily housing and looking at the advantages of multifamily housing. An individual choice is not always right or wrong for single family versus multifamily. And as we change and age through life, our choices also become altered.
People are reevaluating what's important in terms of their ability to raise a family. So I think the affordability of housing will be a key component to the decisions people make. And that will ultimately, I think, bode well for the apartment industry, because that will likely be a more attractive option for people than it's been in the past.
You see the foreclosures happening. You see these people who are without a home because they can't afford to pay the rate on their mortgage. And I think they see apartment living as, wow, I don't have the responsibilities of taking care of my home. Not just paying the mortgage, but I don't have to mow the lawn. My light bulb goes out, you know what, I can call Andrew down at the front desk. He can send somebody up to get me taken care of. It's cool. I mean, it really is. Like, I truly feel that the new apartment complexes that we're seeing, these homes can do everything for you. You can have your dry cleaning done at the building. You can borrow a movie from the concierge desk. You have party rooms. You have places for your pets to go out and run. I mean, you have everything, and it's so much more convenient to that lifestyle of being out, or even if you don't go out, knowing that restaurant's downstairs, it gives you that better option.
The effects of the housing crisis are still upon us, but with each coming generation, the dream continues to change and grow. Housing lies at the heart of the American dream, but as we move forward from this crisis, our nation must strive for a different dream, a dream where our children do not repeat the mistakes of our past.
Our children are our future, and it's so important that we continue to promote our education. From the industry standpoint, I would say that we need to continue to have as many educational components that involve the growth of our children and just making sure that they have somewhere where they can call home.
Hey, Madeline said this, outside when we was on the swing, I think. She said, if this was our house, Miss Howard would be your mom.
Oh my goodness, that's silly.
And he would be your dad.
Your dad! That's fun.
Yeah.
John, your father. Congratulations.
Sure. Guys, you want to see the house?
You can show.
Oh, that looks so cute. Sometime in New York, there are these golf ball size hill. Yeah.
Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. I was like, yikes, gotta run.
What would you do if you lived here? Would you like living here?
Yeah, if there was a bunch of toys.
A bunch of toys? What would you do if you lived here?
I would play.
You would play. Yeah. Cool. All right.
It looks red, orange, blue, white, brown, brown, brown.
Do you think people live there or just work there?
Work there. If someone lived there, they're working.
They're working?
They're working right now.
Oh, I see. I gotcha.
Because if we didn't have any money, we'd just be living out on the streets. We wouldn't want that, would we? I'm not videotaping.
We're videotaping all of us.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be
I'm
on
on camera too.
We're all on camera, all together.
For real?
Yeah, for real. We're on too.
What about them?
No, they're not. But she's gonna be soon, just like us. But we're all three of us are on camera.
Bye-bye.